Brady's 44, and I'm not saying anyone will ever do that again. Maybe they will, but
yeah.
I really think Rodgers after that MVP season is just cooked, because I certainly don't think that's remotely the case. Well, that guy's going to hope so tonight. Three-quarter mil.
My God.
Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's the Awesemo.com NFL Showdown Deeper Dive. I do too many shows to keep track of the names around here. Presented by Prize Picks. I'm Dave Loughran. Hit your boy up at Laffy_D on the Twitters, LOUGHY_D. And while you're at it, hit up my co-host as well, Matt Savoca, joining me again for the second straight week. And that man can be found on the Twitters at Draftaholic. I'm actually surprised that name was available.
I know, right? Like I kind of took it late, like right around the time draft.com, draft.com, the GOAT, was getting really, really popular. And I was playing a lot of it, hence the name. But yeah, it was there for me.
Like on the app you're talking about, like the draft app?
Oh, yeah. It was like the first app. If you don't know, if you didn't play during that time, it was the first app that just made things super easy. And, there are a lot of platforms like Underdog that have sort of taken the baton and run with it. And now it's even better than it was. But I remember getting in on just $1 drafts. And that's where I really got hooked on fantasy football and DFS in general.
Yeah, man. That was a really fun app and people loved it. I know a lot of people, buddies of mine, that are big into like season long and stuff and dynasty leagues, but not huge in the DFS, that were really upset to see draft disappear because they loved it. It was something that was like in the middle of someone that loved DFS and season long. They just thoroughly enjoyed it, but that's all right. We got a big game tonight and I'm looking forward to it. I look forward to last night. That one did not disappoint. You got to do some crazy shit in these games where you've got guys like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, guys that are going to force you to pay a lot of money. But now tonight's a little bit different, Matt. So we'll jump into it with a little bit of strategy talk here. And don't worry, I didn't forget about you guys. Just waiting for this room to fill up a little bit more. When you've got a slate like this, and it's similar to last night, not identical, of course, but similar in the sense that you're going to want to get a lot of the good players into your lineups, right? And that was the case yesterday, but you have to do things and you have to make, you have to make exceptions. There are going to be spots where you just are not going to be able to play everyone, right? But tonight you have a single game slate with a big spread, blowout potential. But more than that, what about the fact that you have these big three in Devonte Adams, Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Jones? You can fit them into the lineup, but I feel like there will be a lot of dupes there. Maybe you make some concessions and go different at captain spot. How do you approach this without getting too deep into it on a night like this where one team is so much more favorable than the other?
Yeah, I mean, spoiler alert, if you look for the optimal lineup percentages, the probability that a player is going to be in the optimal lineup tonight, those big three Packers are showing up a whole lot. In fact, if you look at just the captain spot, the optimal captain percentage, which is something we have available at Awesemo.com, the big three on the Packers, Devonte Adams, Aaron Jones, and of course, Aaron Rodgers, make up 75% of the probability of the optimal captain.
And 81% of the top overall score probability.
So in this case, it's pretty obvious how most of the field is going to expect this game flow in this game with this spread to play out. Are we saying that these players, these three players on the Packers, are bad plays in tournaments or in cash games? No, we're really not. In fact, we have a leverage metric that compares their probability of being in the optimal lineup with expected ownership, and the leverage scores for these players, especially Devonte Adams, still really, really high compared to the rest of the field. So what it tells you is that you should probably eat some of the chalk, at least some of it, and then differentiate yourself in different ways. I think what's really interesting about a slate like this in particular is you have a bunch of running backs who could theoretically be used. We don't have just two bell cows on each side. We have two running backs who are viable on each side. And we have tight ends who are, for their own unique reasons, really interesting. So I'm not going to say have any lineups really without one of those three Packers, that's going to be really contrarian. But there are ways here to differentiate that we can dive into now.
Yeah, and it's also one of those rare occurrences where you could very much justify playing two running backs from the same team in the same on the same lineup.
Absolutely. That was something I was going to add. This is something, if you're running lineups through an optimizer, this is usually a rule we set right away where we say, no way are we going to have two running backs from the same team. But especially after seeing that week one performance where Jared Goff on the Detroit Lions side so heavily favored targeting his running backs and TJ Hawkinson, there's no way that I'm going to go without the possibility of including two running backs on a team when I'm making multiple lineups tonight. Now, that doesn't mean I have to do it. By all means, you don't have to do it, but it is definitely viable, especially when you talk about the receiving upside.
No doubt about it. I'm looking forward to getting into all of this. Actually, a very fun game. And Matt, sometimes when you have this blowout potential, you can do the onslaught, or maybe it's actually not what you expected. And perfect example. What about Thursday night football last week between Washington and the New York Giants? We saw 59 total points in a game that had a 40.5 total. We saw most people going into this one. And that's, I always try and provide a caveat. Like, this is what should happen, right? This is what the odds say is going to happen. This is what, the implied probability of this happening is 70%. But I think sometimes people ignore that 70% is not 100%. Like 30% is still a pretty big number, Matt. And when it comes to football that has the highest level of parity of any sport out there that I can think of that I care about, I should say. And this first 2 weeks have been no exception. That 30%, even 20%, whatever it is still viable, especially when you're trying to beat out 200,000 other entries to win $500,000 up top.
Well, how about these Detroit Lions who helped smash the over-under of their week one game by putting up 33 points? That over-under was beat by almost over 30 points. So I think the possibility of a shootout here is actually higher than people might expect here. Now, of course, the Packers side, their shootout probability is sort of correctly factored in to their increased salaries on both sites. But if the Lions are able to keep pace offensively, we're probably seeing 30 plus points from both teams, which means there's going to be options, fantasy production from both sides.
I'm very much looking forward to diving in right now, since I've said that 8 times already. Sometimes I'm just not good at my job. But hey, we're happy to have you guys with us. I told you I'd get around to that. Can't do it without you hanging out with us every night. This should be a fun game. I don't even need to say hit the thumbs up because we're already at 129 likes. Just started the show. You guys are the best. Appreciate you. But I would ask, if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button too. Help us get to that 60,000 subscriber mark. And I lied. Hit that thumbs up as well. I mean, I'm trying to get to 500 today. That would be pretty fantastic. We got Live Before Live coming up after this with Greg, or I think it's Eric and Matt Gajeski. So anyway, let's dive into this right now. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe. And well, let's have some fun, Matt. We got the Detroit Lions, 18.75 implied total here, 11.5 point dogs. The Green Bay Packers are coming to this one after getting embarrassed on a neutral stadium by Jameis Winston and company last week. And of course, the media hype and the attention was all focused on what's going on with the Packers. Okay, well, let's not forget, again, parity. The New Orleans Saints got smoked. They got their doors blown off by Carolina yesterday. It's a weird sport.
The greatest team in the NFC, the Carolina Panthers.
It's crazy, right? Like you just don't know about a lot of these teams. And with such a small sample size sport, it's going to take us a little bit longer until we really start to identify legitimate trends in this league. And hopefully it'll be sooner than that. But I digress. So, okay, last week, and Tyrell Williams is out for you guys building lineups, but that big O next to his name should have given that away. Jared Goff played 92 offensive snaps. Okay. 92 offensive snaps. 36% of his targets went to running backs. But then when you look at the rest of the target share, it's like Hawkinson and Swift were 19%. Jamal Williams was 16%. Trinity Benson, Quintez Cephas were 10.5%. Khalif Raymond and Amon-Ra St. Brown were 7%. Tyrell Williams was 5%. Jason Kabinda and Darren Fells were 1.8%. And Goff targeted 10 different players. That's not exactly encouraging when you're trying to pinpoint good plays, but it does make it so you could see a Byron Pringle type play where one target or two targets and he somehow takes it to the house on busted coverage or a quarterback slips over.
So I'm going to counter a little bit and say this kind of makes it a little bit fun, especially when we're talking about creating showdown lineups.
No,
so
I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying it's not encouraging in the sense that you can't pinpoint anybody, but there's always that one or two or three target potential guy that could blow the roof up, blow this complete slate up.
And that's exactly what we're looking for when we're having trouble in a one-game slate with creating lineup uniqueness. And like Dave was talking about, all we have to do is imagine a situation where one player takes one of their three targets, breaks two tackles, and suddenly, similar to Rondale Moore yesterday, they've broken a huge game wide open. And sometimes that can happen at low ownership. So you have a generally spread out offense and a uniquely condensed offense in the areas where it is condensed, where we saw running back targets galore for DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. And I just looking at the game log for TJ Hawkinson. Everyone remembers that first game of his rookie year where it was an overtime game against Arizona and Hawkinson was used all over the field. He was basically unstoppable in that game. His week one performance was his best fantasy production since that game. So it's very possible with the way that Jared Goff plays quarterback and he looks to his check down options. It's very clear he looks to his check down options that TJ Hawkinson could finally have that guaranteed consistent target share that we've already been looking for. So I think he makes an obviously fine play for cash. I was actually surprised to see, based on our projections, that he's not one of our strong values. I think we're actually underrating his upside in a matchup like this. And one thing I will also get into, the Lions didn't just score 33 points last week. They're also facing a defense who continues to underwhelm. Over the last 5 regular season games, they actually rank bottom 5 in the league in defensive series success rate. And although they're a little bit worse against the rush, they're nothing special against the pass either. I think we could see this game hit the over, as I mentioned before, but also Jared Goff passing better than we expect.
Manny C with the super chat. Thanks, man. He says, thanks for all the Awesemo.com and the effort you guys put in to make us better players. Thanks for hanging out and watching us and supporting the channel, dude.
Cheers, man.
Yeah, I'm with you, though. I mean, first of all, TJ Hawkinson's good, and everyone should have hammered the over 775 receiving yards prop prior to the start of this season. Watch now, he's just going to get hurt or something or just completely disappear. But
don't put that out there.
Yeah, but how do you not love him, right? Like, how do you not? Just in general, not even just tonight, but in general, like TJ Hawkinson's going to be targeted heavily. Jared Goff had a 5.9 yards per attempt last game. How much do you really think that's going to change? It's not going to change that much. Maybe he works his way up to like 6.5 or not percent. Sorry, 5.9 yards. You know what I meant.
Yeah, to 6.5 yards. Sure.
Right. To like 6.5 yards. But Jared Goff is not someone that's just going to routinely air it out. Now, I will say, Matt, and I was a little bit surprised by this. He had a 12.5% deep ball, 12.5 deep ball percentage last week, 7 deep balls, which on 57 attempts or whatever it was is still, it's not insane, but he did target players 20 plus yards downfield 7 times, only converted 2 of them into receptions. And obviously they were playing with 28-point deficit, but it's not out of the realm of possibility to think that they are playing from behind today. I mean, this game's not to be a narrative guy, but hear me out. Like, this is at Lambeau Field, you know, it's going to be loud. It's going to be ruckus there. I went there a couple of years ago to watch an Eagles game. They actually won. And it was amazing experience, but the Green Bay faithful are way too nice. It creeped me out, not in a bad way. Like, I'm just not used to that. You know, I'm not used to that type of welcoming mentality. Usually you get beer dumped on your head if you come in the lane.
Right.
You know? But I just think this is a game where everyone's reading a little bit too much into last week. And I do think Green Bay is going to crush them. I think they're going to throttle them. And I don't think, but again, I'm not just building lineups with that in mind. Okay. But I don't, and I know you talked about Green Bay's defense over the remaining games of the season last year, but how much do we trust this Detroit offense? They have a decent offensive line. We'll give them that. They got some good pass catching backs. You got Hawkinson. You have nobody on the outside though.
Yeah, you definitely don't have anyone on the outside. And I agree with you. I think we saw an increased amount of deep targets for Goff, based on the game script. But the game script could very well be similar, where the Packers offense, especially after a week where they got demoralized after just they got benched at the end of the game there. They come out scorched earth here early, and then Detroit is forced in the second half to come out throwing. Typically, when we do see a low average depth of target quarterback suddenly spike in deep targets, we got to look at the game script. And as we saw last week, that's why he was probably throwing deep. And unfortunately, and kind of expectedly, Goff was not very successful or efficient on those deep targets. Let's zoom out for a second with the Hockenson info as well for a moment. This is a player who has not actually disappointed at all in their career yet. One thing we have to remember is with top 10 picks, particularly at the tight end, Kyle Pitts is a different scenario altogether. It takes time for the tight end position to mature. And if you talk about a player who is respected by his peers, I don't exactly know what this means, but Hockenson winning tight end U over the summer, where all of the great tight ends of the NFL got together and basically anointed him the next leader of the position, that stuff matters over the long term. And then to see him fed in week one, like those who drafted him in season-long fantasy really wanted, I think this is signal here. I think you're going to see a quarterback tight end mesh where we could finally have consistent target share. I really think in a matchup like this, 9 to 12 targets it's not a 50% probability, but it's not in the 75 percentile. It could really happen this week.
You know why TJ Hockenson, and this is just my theory, you know why people look at him as potentially a disappointment from last year? Because he's not Travis Kelce or Darren Waller. And
yet.
Right. But I'm saying, he wasn't Travis Kelce or Darren Waller.
Got it.
And let me explain what I mean. Travis Kelce had 313 fantasy points, PPR format. Waller had 280. Mind you, Kelce played 15 games. Waller played 16. TJ Hockenson was a tight end 5, and he was 1.6 fantasy points behind the tight end 3, right? So he was essentially the tight end 3 at the beginning of the year. It's just those guys are so far on the outside looking in to guys like Kelce and Waller that you just go like, yeah, they're okay. But this could be I said in July, this is going to be 1,000-yard season from Hawkins. I don't care if it sounds like I'm mushing everything, but I'm in full agreement with you that this guy's legitimately good. And he is in an offense where maybe the touchdown equity is going to be less than other teams. It will be, right? But on a PPR standpoint, and that's what you're talking about with DraftKings, half point for FanDuel, there are going to be games where he has 10 receptions for, 85 yards and hopefully a touchdown. And I think tonight, Jared Goff is going to have to throw once again. And would he rather target Hockenson, or would he rather look towards, players that were just made up yesterday?
Yeah, exactly. And we just saw the Saints heavily target the tight end position against this same Green Bay Packers defense in week 1. I know it's only a 1-week sample, but Adam Troutman came out of that week 1 game with over a 20% target share, and Juwan Johnson, the backup tight end, caught 2 touchdowns. So production and opportunity, certainly not out of the question for Hockenson. Don't take that, or take that median projection that you see on Awesemo with a grain of salt. The ceiling is absolutely there for him in this matchup.
Matt, I want to get to the running backs, but let's get some of these pass catchers out of the way first. If there are some names that you guys watching the show haven't heard of, I promise you, no one's going to blame you. Like Matt, if you looked at someone and said, even a DFS player, not just some casual, and said, wait, you don't know who Trinity Benson is? It kind of makes sense.
Fair. Yeah.
Kind of makes sense.
We're digging deep here.
But I just to point this out one more time, and we can look at this outside. You can look at it from a target share standpoint or just overall targets. Hockenson, Swift, and Williams made up 31 of 57 targets last game. Okay, 31 of 57. Then you had Trinity Benson and Quintez Cephas with 6 each. Khalif Raymond and the rookie Amon St. Brown, whose brother is just brought up. Actually, he'll be watching him from the sidelines. Both had 4. Terrell Williams got hurt, had 3. So that'll open up a little bit, but Darren Fells and then Jason Kabinda had 1 each. So it comes down to this point that we talked about to open the show. Where can we go to maybe hit that Millie Maker lottery ticket in the form of a wide receiver of the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, these are large field tournament plays. Let's just get that out of the way. This is your differentiator play. But if you had to plug your nose and play Amon-Ra St. Brown and hope that in his second career game that they get him more involved, I don't think that's the craziest narrative. If you have to play Quintus Cephas, who has had a double-digit target game in his career, he's only a second-year player. Maybe out of the slot, he gets more usage. Again, you're really just kind of telling yourself a story here that, you know, maybe Hawkinson is being blanketed, so they're really tight. They're really leaving open a slot receiver, and suddenly that player has 6 for 60 and a touchdown. Khalif Raymond, really, these players are really tough to narrow down. I'm not really excited about any of them, but basically they're there as the leverage play. You can use a bunch of chalk and then have that one-off where if it hits, you're going to be passing a lot of the field because they simply don't have them.
If you had to give me 3 of them in order, no, in order, right? Like third can be way behind the top one. Who would it be?
Okay. So obviously this is all behind Hawkinson, and it's behind the 2 running backs even.
And it's with everyone having the knowledge, right? Everyone being informed that these are large field tournament options that are the probability that they actually pan out is low, but yeah, that's the case with most people who win $500,000.
I'll go Raymond, St. Brown, Cephas.
Man, no Trinity Benson.
Trinity Benson is a recent ad for this team. They traded for him during the preseason. So he was only added to the team August 31st, but I guess 6 targets is nothing to scoff at. 5 fantasy points. I mean, it's not crazy to play any of them, but they're definitely dart throw plays.
Yeah, for sure. And with Benson, it's like yards per target had to be 2 yards. Yeah, like it wasn't very good, but you have to respect targets, and hopefully the volume will be there. We had a super chat too. I did want to hit on. Jack Perry says, Awesemo NBA best ball content anytime soon. Sorry for the off-topic question. # ketchup on eggs. Matt, do you put ketchup on eggs?
Oh man, I don't.
You don't?
I do not.
I absolutely.
I'll do some salsa.
Love it. Salsa?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like sriracha ketchup is what I do. Get the ketchup, mix in some sriracha. It's good, man. There was a huge battle 2 years ago between Josh and myself, and it went viral, Matt. And it was just the ketchup and eggs people against the no ketchup on eggs people, and it grew legs. It's been going ever since. See, Red Dog says I love ketchup on eggs. Don't we all?
Gosh, I hate to have a lukewarm opinion, but like I'm not saying no to ketchup and eggs. I'm just not doing it myself.
Dude, I think I'm in the minority on this, actually. No joke. Like a lot of people think it's disgusting.
Really?
It's not.
Okay.
Only scrambled eggs or an omelet. I'm not throwing them on like sunny side up, you know? Only scrambled eggs or an omelet.
Yeah, because then we got to call the police or something. If it's on sunny side up, we're through. No.
No. Come on. No. Can't do that. What am I, an animal? DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams. Now, like I said, they almost had a 40% target share last week. Those guys got peppered with targets. If they're playing from behind, the one silver lining to Swift every game is that maybe this defense will be so bad that because he's not getting the production in the run game that you would anticipate, and that could very much be the case, maybe he makes up in PPR leagues for all of that through the air. I mean, it's going to be tough to do. There's no doubt, but is it possible that DeAndre Swift has a 20% target share on this team by the time the season's over?
No, it's possible that by the end of tonight, he has a 20% target share through 2 weeks. And, you know, it's really interesting with Swift because his second year player.
Why could he maintain it? That's what I meant.
Yeah. No, genuinely, he absolutely could.
Yeah.
I think outside of Hawkinson and Swift, I think you could see a smattering of targets to a couple of players each week. We're not expecting Jamal Williams to have that kind of target share for the rest of the year. For Swift, that's a totally different story. Looking at this specific week, though, it's really interesting with Swift because his salary is pretty high, particularly on DraftKings, making it difficult to get to him if you are trying to fit in multiple Packers players. And so I'm looking at the projected ownership is actually AJ Dillon is just slightly less in ownership. And you're talking about a player in Swift who, in terms of talent, his tackle breaking ability, and his expected usage is drastically different. Now, I know the salaries are too. I know that they are, excuse me. But Deandre Swift, particularly in tournaments, really intrigues me just because we have that floor because of that target that target floor. But he also has that ceiling. If he does get in the end zone, we could see a huge game from Swift at relatively low ownership.
What about Williams?
I mean, obviously he's second fiddle here. And obviously we're all really surprised that he ends up with, a 25-point fantasy game in that first week. The target share was there. So I was really wrong about this. I really expect Williams to just be a change of pace back and Swift to get a bulk of the workload. We didn't see that in
Dan
week
Campbell
one.
loves him.
Yeah. I mean, it's clear. It's clear from the playing time, the snap share, that he is going to be used. But I still think, and maybe this is just too much of a narrative base or based on their draft capital, that Swift is by far the superior talent and therefore has a much higher ceiling in any given week, particularly this one.
Nick the Picker, $20 super chat. Thanks, Nick. Says, put out a SGP, same game parlay, for anyone wondering, with Williams receiving yards over 20.5, Swift receiving yards over 28.5, double result, Green Bay, so halftime, full time, over 44.5 total, and Lions plus 21.5. Thoughts or concerns? Friends with Greg on Twitter, but fans of everyone there and what you do. Thanks, Nick. And then he said, another one said odds at plus 1,043. So, all right, Matt.
What was the first one on Swift? What?
Now, Williams receiving yards over 20.5, Swift over 28.5 receiving yards.
I think he's got a shot.
I think he's got a shot too. If you're getting it at those odds, first of all, it's not bad, right? 10-1 odds. But I would say that the only thing I don't love is over on both running backs receiving totals for the same team, because if one of them just gets on fire, and I know Matt just said they're going to use Williams, I agree, but I always like to try and not take both of them in the same game. But hey, with the assumption here, you're looking at them to fall behind. I get that, granted, double result, Green Bay, plus the overs on both Now you just got to hope they lose by, you got a good line there, 21.5. Hope they lose by 3 touchdowns or less. Yeah, why not, man?
Yeah, Jamal Williams has to, I'm looking at the projected stats. He has to overproduce or be over his projection by about 20% in receiving yards. That's not insane. You're not out of the realm of possibility. Plus getting the extra points definitely helps.
Dude, ride the lightning too, because that one guy has a 16 game parlay, $25 to win $775,000, $750,000. If this guy just didn't bet tonight's game, he'd be rolling in money right now. But now he's got to get the Lions money line at plus 400. Astronomical odds already. And even after hitting 15 to 16, he still only has implied odds are 20% for the Lions. So good luck to him. And of course, good luck to you, Matt, whoever just super chat us. God, it disappeared. So Nick the Picker. All right, Matt, anything else do you want to hit on for the Lions?
Really, I think it's going to be a concentrated offense within TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift. And then outside of that, I think the Jamal Williams receiving share was a blip on the radar screen. Yes, he's going to get opportunities more than I expected, but I don't think you're seeing a receiving workload. I hope I'm wrong for Nick the Picker's sake.
Let's take our attention over to the Green Bay Packers. Looking forward. I almost did it again, see? Because I just want to talk about these top 3 guys badly. The problem is it's not particularly easy to get all of them into a showdown line. You can do it. You can have some Trinity Benson in there, though. I'll tell you that much. And if you actually have looked at this, you'll see, you can make some good lineups, but at the same time, some difficult ones to be constructed as well. That is one of the reasons I like Prize Picks quite a bit, and a lot of other people do, and they've shown it in chat. on Twitter, you name it. Daily prop-based contests where you don't have to put 6 guys in the same lineup and have all of them win to basically win the lottery. I mean, we love showdown slates, no doubt. But over at Prize Picks, all you have to do is pick 2, 3, 4, or 5 players on the board to go over or under their projected score. And if you correctly pick 5 of them, you can net up to 10 extra entry fee. You got NBA, WNBA, MLB, esports, but what do we care about right now? Obviously, it's the NFL. But if you're into baseball, if you're into those other sports, you can mix them up. If you want to do 5 picks, they don't have to be all 5 NFL. You could do 3 NFL. You could do a WM. I don't even know. I don't know when the NBA starts, when it finishes. I have no idea. But if it's around right now, grab some WNBA if that's your twist, or esports, whatever it is. Net up to 10 extra money on a 5-pick bet and get $100, up to $100 when you sign up on a instant match deposit bonus using the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. And is this right? That actually is old, so I won't go to that. But download the app in the App Store. Go to prizepicks.com. Go to the Google Play Store, wherever it is. And it just looks good, too. Like the UI is nice. It's clean. It makes you want to be there. Makes you feel comfortable, like you're at home. Anyway, use the promo code Awesemo, up to $100 match deposit bonus when you sign up and deposit. And Matt, what would you say is your top Prize Picks prop for tonight?
Okay, I think there are so many ways that this goes right. I think Deandre Swift over 40.5 rush yards. It's just too low of a prop for a starting running back. Yes, Jamal Williams was involved through the air. I still think that even if the rushing game isn't in the game script because it's a high-scoring affair, we still could see some garbage time where they're just handing it off on 3rd and long for Swift, and he's going to have the efficiency where I think he is able to get that. The Awesemo props tool shows this hitting 65% of the time, and I'm actually going to go against the projections on this one. I say TJ Hawkinson over 5.0 receptions. I wish that number was 4.5. I would feel a lot safer, but I think the usage is going to be there. I think he gets 6 receptions or more tonight.
Who was that for?
TJ Hawkinson.
That was mine.
Oh no!
Trust me. I am hardly broken up over it, but I'm with you. TJ Hawkinson for me definitely feels like a spot where they will have to pepper him once again, and we'll get TJ Hawkinson over 5. I mean, even to get him to 6, that's all you need. We don't need 12, Matt. Just give us 6. I think it's very doable. So I like that. Awesemo is the promo code. Get that deposit bonus and start playing there. It's a great hedge too against DFS and everything else we do here on the channel. All right, let's talk Green Bay. You mentioned it. You alluded to this, and I'm so glad you did because I had this in the run sheet too at the top of the show. Just the overall optimal lineup, the combined optimal lineup percentages for the top 3 guys in this team. And then it's 81% top player percentages too. So over at our optimal lineup tool, top showdown, top plays tool, which I love, you have the probability that it'll be the top player on the day, their captain spot, optimal probability, and then whether they'll finish in the 2 through 6 or the 2 through 5 spot, whether you're playing on DraftKings or FanDuel. So it's crazy, Matt, because Devonte Adams has a 40% probability of being a top overall player. 40%. Rodgers is 27%. Aaron Jones is 14%. And then it falls off a cliff to DeAndre Swift at 5%, and then down to Jared Goff at 2.9. And then it's just flat all the way down. But those 3 guys make up pretty much 100, not 100, but close to 100% of the probability of these guys being in the top optimal or the top overall option today.
Right. Devonte Adams looks so good as a captain because it allows you to do more, especially on DraftKings. On FanDuel, where we typically want to roster the highest raw overall score in the MVP position, I'm leaning a little bit towards Aaron Rodgers, but just barely. Man, if Devonte Adams and Aaron Rodgers don't get on the same page in this matchup, I kind of want to see what happens with the big sports media companies and how they freak out and they start to panic over Green Bay, but I certainly don't project that happening. I don't see the Lions, who by many metrics have the worst defense in the NFL. By some metrics, by far the worst defense in the NFL. I don't believe that they have any answer for Devonte Adams. Remember, they're already shorthanded in the secondary. Their third overall pick from 2020, the Lions' third overall pick, that is, Jeffrey Okudah, cornerback. He is out for the season with a ruptured Achilles. That leaves them shorthanded in a place where they already were not very good last season. So Devonte Adams can hit in so many different ways. He could underwhelm in target share and still have multiple touchdowns. I could see that happening. He could have 15 targets out of a way that Rodgers and Adams just get back on the same page. So especially on DraftKings, he is my favorite captain. There's really no way around it. Aaron Jones looks great too, but you got to really tell yourself a story about the game script there for him to really outpace Aaron Rodgers and Devonte Adams in your projections. Not saying it's impossible, but not as probable as Adams or Rodgers being that top option.
I'm with you. And hey, we're more than halfway to 500 likes. Appreciate you. 276. We got 1,400 people watching. Save me the embarrassment, please. Don't make me jump out of my office window after the show because I failed. I failed Matt. I failed Jordan. I failed my family and myself. Don't worry, there's plenty of bushes down there. I'd be okay. But nevertheless, get us there. We can all celebrate this accomplishment together. And maybe on Thursday, have some drinks on a live stream during Thursday Night Football. You should join one night, Matt. It's pretty fun.
Oh, I'm planning on it. Those happy hour, the first half shows. Oh, I'm in.
Yeah, I got kind of tuned up last time. Might have to settle down a little bit this day, but I'll be there. I'll be there for sure. All right. So between Adams and Rodgers, I think we already know both of them are great options. Aaron Jones doesn't have quite as high of, none of the numbers are quite as nice for Aaron Rodgers or for Aaron Jones, but it's still a pretty high number, right? Especially when you're on a team as good with Devonte Adams and Aaron Jones, like 13.9% as the top overall performer, 14.5% as the optimal captain. So it's hard not to like him here. I'm curious. Do you think Aaron Jones still gets not majority, because you look at the majority of rushing work. Do you think he still gets the large majority of rushing attempts and passing down work out of the backfield ahead of ahead of Dillon? And do you think he's still the goal line back?
All right. I hate to get technical about this, but I do think a majority, as like 67%, something like that, is possible for Jones. But one thing I definitely noticed is that A.J. Dillon is currently projected for about 30% of the Green Bay Packers running back expected fantasy points on Awesemo.com right now. If you were to bump that down for A.J. Dillon to say 20%, which is certainly not unreasonable, maybe 15%, suddenly you're looking at a 22, 23 fantasy point score for Aaron Jones, and that could absolutely be a game changer. Now, how does he get there? Without a huge target share, that really means he has to take a bulk of the carries and a bulk of the quality opportunities. Those are goal line carries. It's certainly possible. I think really the way that Jones gets there tonight is by breaking off a huge run or two. And against this putrid Detroit Lions defense, I certainly think it's possible. They grade out a little bit worse against the pass, but Aaron Jones can certainly take down a bottom 5 rushing defense like the Lions are.
People were asking how we feel about the weather. Actually, they weren't asking. They were just stating that we're ignoring the weather. The truth is, Matt, oftentimes, unless it's bad conditions, I do ignore the weather. And if the total doesn't really move, I'm also prone to trust that with people a lot smarter than me that aren't pushing this total down. It's gone from 49.5 to 49. That means nothing. I know that the game was forecasted for some winds and rain. I'll tell you this much. Like, if you are worried about it, then you should go even heavier Green Bay onslaught, because Aaron Rodgers is one of the best bad weather players out there, particularly cold weather, but he loves the bad weather games. Okay. On the other hand, Jared Goff's a West Coast dude, and the Lions play in a dome. Only one game he's played all season, but if you are worried about it, I would say then just full onslaught again and just hammer the Packers everywhere. But it's not something I'm factoring in all that heavily, if really at all, Matt. I just trust these. Plus, it's not like Goff even throws deep. So, okay, more dump offs to Swift and Jamal Williams and more, 5-yard passes to TJ Hawkinson. It's just not one of those games that it really factors as much for me. It's not like the Cleveland Oakland game or the Cleveland Philly game last year, the Cleveland Houston game last year, where it was like legitimate torrential downpour and apocalyptic weather. I don't see that happening.
No, and in terms of wind as well, there have been studies that have shown that if you have sustained winds of 15 miles per hour or more, then you can change the passing projections a little bit. You can lower them just a little bit. But I know it's weird to say, but 14 is not 15. And I'm seeing sustained winds of 14 or below at this point. And while it's close, that is not the line where I start to make a difference here. No, I'm not making updates for weather. I really hope that it gives people pause about Aaron Rodgers just enough so that I can play him a little bit more than the field.
Oh, Drop Roses is in chat. What's up, pal? Everyone loves Drop Roses' presence for many myriad reasons, but here he is. Jordan, by the way, is that picture in the background super lopsided? Yeah, it's driving me nuts, man. Can we just get up and maybe tilt that a little bit? It's driving me crazy. You're fine.
We have the high priority items here on
the stream drops
live before lock.
Shout out to our boy Jordan Klein, 19th show today, waking up at 5 a.m., just grinding, just burning the 5 a.m. oil out there in California. We all love him. Shout him out in chat. All right, Matt, talk to me about some of these kind of secondary, even tertiary options for Green Bay, and then we'll close this team out with a little strategy discussion surrounding Aaron Jones and Dillon and maybe the same lineup.
Yeah, so you mentioned A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon is popping as a value play in our projections, mainly because, like I mentioned before, he's currently being attributed about 30% of the projected fantasy points for the running back position from Green Bay. I do think that's highly variable. We could see something like a 60-40 production split, but we could also very easily see an 80-20 split. So I think that projection for Dillon is a little bit flimsy, but talk about flimsy projections. Robert Tonyan is already disappointing people after 1 week because he got 3 targets, when meanwhile last year he averaged 3.75 targets per game. The reason we liked Robert Tonyan is because he kept scoring at unfathomably high rates. He scored 2 touchdowns every 3 games last year. So you know what's going to happen now that people have already given up on Robert Tonyan? He's going to score twice in this matchup, tilting the Devonte Adams roster lineups, and he's going to smash this 8-point projection. But truly, we can only project about 3, if we're lucky, 5-6 targets for Robert Tonyan. Don't get super excited about suddenly having a player who is going to explode for a 14-target game. This is not TJ Hawkinson light over here. I do think Tonyan is a fine talent. I just think he's overrated in terms of fantasy. But then after that, you really start to fall off a cliff. We see Mercedes Lewis projected for less than 3 fantasy points, but he probably will be involved. And then you start to play this game with, are these auxiliary wide receivers ever going to happen for Green Bay? It certainly never feels good to roster these players, except for the fact that you're like, hey, I guess less of the field is on this Aaron Rodgers-led wide receiver. I certainly don't believe in Allen Lazard long-term, but I could certainly see him getting loose here for a touchdown or 2. He's my favorite of the 9-point or so projected Packers. And Marcus Valdes-Scantling, super athletic player. I know that there was some hype coming in at the end of training camp, disappointed after week 1. I suppose you could say he's sort of in the post-hype sleeper category, but I put him 3rd on this totem pole of wide receivers, well behind Adams, of course, but also behind Lazard, however you say it.
Alan Lazard, yeah. Arcatelza, what's up, bro? Thanks for the super chats. Laffy, you think Detroit covers? That's a big spread. I don't want to touch this one, honestly, dude. There's so many backdoor opportunities, but also I told Matt earlier, I really don't know what to expect from Green Bay. I think they're going to crush them. I think they should. Still think Rodgers is good. Devonte Adams is the GOAT. Aaron Jones is good. but it's a big number. It's tough to cover that in the NFL. You know,
hey, it's week 2, and we have to incorporate a lot of 2020 stats at this point of the season. We cannot throw everything away at this point in the season. And yes, week 1 was alarming, but based on the amount we're contextualizing it, based on the amount we're putting 2020 in, Green Bay should smash.
Yep. Andrew Tagg. Yeah. Myriad of I hear you, man. Listen, it's become mainstream now, but yes, there should be no of when using the word myriad. There's a little tip for the day. And then Manny C, super chat for Jordan Klein. What a guy. Thanks, Manny. Shout out to our boy Jordan. Go buy yourself an ice cream sandwich, bro. Is there a Drop Roses controversy?
Is he old enough to get a drink? I don't know.
What's up?
Is he old enough to get himself a drink? I don't know.
Jordan? Oh yeah, guy can knock him back. Jordan, is there a Drop Roses controversy happening right now? They're saying it's a fake Drop Roses account. Maybe, just maybe, he realized that XX Drop Roses XX is a 2001 AOL Instant Messenger name, and he has vaulted himself into the into 2021 and realized, you know what, maybe I'm like 30 now. Time to drop the XX on each side of my name, which I respect, but we'll see. Matt, can we roster Dillon and Jones in the same lineup? Because I made a couple that were actually, I found a couple interesting where I would go like Aaron Jones captain, and then Dillon in the utility. And then you have Adams and Rodgers also in the utility. So it's like, yeah, Rodgers and Adams. And I'm just playing this out, playing the story out in the head, right? Like, yeah, Adams and Rodgers have a decent game. They hook up. Those tertiary guys don't really do much, the MVS or Lazard, which is very possible. Maybe Robert Tonyan doesn't score 2 touchdowns, or he could, doesn't matter. But then the run game is just dominant. So they kind of throttle the Lions. The run game crushes. They're up by a decent amount to where A.J. Dillon starts getting full series, and Devonte Adams doesn't need to do as much. Rodgers doesn't need to do as much. But because Detroit was so bad, these guys are still in the optimal. I think it's doable. I think it makes some sense.
Yeah, I think it is too. And I think you are going to differentiate yourself from these lineups that roster A.J. Dillon as a salary saver access to the Green Bay Packers offense by putting both of them in there. I certainly don't prioritize it. The way I kind of see that happening is that Aaron Jones is the main producer in the first half or the first 3 quarters, and then A.J. Dillon is able to come in against that same rush defense that gave up big plays to Aaron Jones. Then they gave up those same plays to Dillon. I realize it's going to help you in terms of salary saving, but you got to remember that Dillon is looking like the 4th most projected in terms of ownership of any flex player on DraftKings. So you're not going to be alone just rostering Dillon. You need to be unique in other ways in that lineup.
Another super chat coming in for Jordan Klein. They love him, Matt.
This is the way it should be. This is awesome.
Really is. He will see none of this money, by the way. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I already told Jordan we're hooking this dude up around Christmas time. It's got to be done. Kickers and defenses. I would assume you're not thoroughly intrigued by the Detroit defense. We didn't talk about kickers yet, but I will throw that over to you, Matt. I mean, you've got Mason Crosby, and then you've got Austin Seibert. I mean, is there any interest here?
Yeah, what's the old saying is that kickers help you in cash, but they're a way for your lineup to die in tournaments with showdown slates because their ceilings aren't that high. Well, Thursday's game turned that completely on its head, where both Graham Gano and Dustin Hopkins, I believe, were in the optimal lineup. I could go to the kickers here. The bottom line is they're not going to be super popular, and if this game is going to hit the over, which I actually would pick, I would take the over and the Packers covering the spread personally. I think the kickers would possibly be viable in a situation like this. Yeah, I think Austin Seibert, even if the Lions are going to score way more than expected, I could see him being an option there, especially on DraftKings at 3,600. He helps you. There are some. I think he's a safer bet certainly than like those 1K receivers. That's a way better floor. That's for sure.
Okay. I want to build a lineup here, but let's hit on a couple props first. You got anything you really like, Matt, in the prop world today? Even if it was something on Prize Picks and you found a good line elsewhere, you want to hit that as well. What do you got for me today?
Okay. I personally think that Aaron Rodgers is about to smash his prop line of 277.5 pass yards. Over the last 4 games against the Lions, I was doing some research as I was creating my matchups column for this game specifically. I saw that he averages over 285 passing yards over the last 2 seasons against this team and 2 touchdowns. That equates to about 23 fantasy points. And that's awfully close to that 300-yard bonus that we really hope for on DraftKings. The over is looking like a solid bet with a 63% chance of hitting on the Awesemo projections. I'm taking the Aaron Rodgers bounce back game here on Monday night.
I dig it, man. And I'm going a couple Jared Goff. Let me go on the other side of this one. How about that?
Ooh.
I'm going over on Jared Goff pass attempts, 34.5. I think they're just going to continue to use the running backs out of the backfield in the passing game as an extension of a run game that's probably going to be non-existent. Now, don't get me wrong. Green Bay's run defense is not all that impressive. I'm not saying that. But I have to try and project the game script here, or the flow of this game. And I think that Goff over 35 attempts is not that crazy at all. And then I'm going to go under 35.5 yards for his longest completion, Matt. And the reason for that is, first of all, Rodgers is only at 38.5. But the reason for under on Goff is almost 60% of the total yards that he threw for in week 1 when he attempted 57 passes, almost 60% were yards after the catch. So does that mean that these guys can't break tackles? No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying that I'm not exactly worried that Trinity, what is it, Benson? Trinity Benson. I seriously forget his last name. The Trinity Benson is going to, break one for 50, cue the 60-yard touchdown, all after the catch on a bubble screen. Or that Amon-Ra St. Brown or any of these guys, Quintez Cephas. Quintez Cephas is the one guy that could do it. But Jared Goff's deep ball isn't good. So I like the under there as well. So over on pass attempts, under on 35.5 yards, which is only minus 110, which is kind of nice. So, all right, Matt, let's, what do we say we build a lineup here?
Let's do it. Let's roll.
Let's do it. And how many people do we have watching right now? Oh, nice. We almost got 2,000 watching. Let's go. Appreciate you guys. 382 likes, almost 59,000 subscribers. That's exactly what I want to see. You guys are the greatest.
Let's go.
We love you here. All right. Oh, and last thing before we build this lineup and give you our final thoughts. Also, what are your predictions on this game? You got everybody, not everybody. I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of talking in chat, and I love it. I love nothing more than shit talking, Matt, and a little harmless trolling and some opinions. It's good. We want that. But what happens? Give me a score for this game so you can come back and actually talk shit because you were right. Not just, I knew this was going to happen. I'm going to tweet Laffy after he tweeted 3 hours ago saying he liked this play because it didn't plan out. Let me know what you got. Let me know what you got.
That's the hashtag screenshot life that we want to see.
Exactly. No doubt about it. 477 likes, almost at 500. Okay. Anyway, Matt, awesemo.com. All of the tools we have, I've talked about before. Awesemo himself, #1 ranked DFS player, Alex Baker, created these tools, uses these tools. He's $1 million using the same tools that are on the site, right? The boom bust tool. Matt and I talk about the single game top plays tool. That's one of my favorite tools.
Me too.
It really is, right? And the top stack tool, I love. I'm not just saying this either. Like I actually use these tools. Ownership, player projections, all of that stuff. And then like for baseball, top pitchers, top stacks, basketball, the boom bust tool. We have this stuff for everything though. If it's relevant to the sport, we have it. Basketball, baseball, football, hockey, MMA, NASCAR, PGA, soccer, esports. People were crushing esports during the quarantine. I guess some people still play it too. Pete Rogers does.
Yeah.
Yeah. People still play it, man. I'm saying like around here. I know it's huge around the world. Don't get me wrong. But if you use Jordan, what's the promo code? NFL Showdown LBL, I think. Just make people write a book. Why don't we? All one word, caps. Oh, you're right. You're right. Thank you. NFL Showdown DD. NFL Showdown DD gets you 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And now you can get Fantasy Cruncher add-on for the week or the month or the year too, if you wanted to do that. Whatever you want to do, check it out. If you want to make a commitment, you want to make an investment, you should say go full year, one sport, all sport, just NFL. Doesn't matter. We'll see you over there, awesemo.com/join. And if you want to get that 25% off with that promo, just go to awesemo.com DFS.com/promos, and you can find it there. All right, Matt, let's build a lineup. I'll hand it to you. We're going large field single entry. So not, you know what I mean? Maybe 25,000. That's still pretty big, but it's not.
Yeah, that's big.
Right. But it's not the one. It's not what is this one? This one's 20. This one's 200,000, 500K up top for the showdown. Wait, no, tonight's a milli.
Oh, very nice. Well,
yeah, tonight's a milli. So let's go with like a $15 single entry, 15K to first or whatever, something like that. Who are you captaining?
Okay. And we're doing DraftKings here.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look here. On DraftKings, if I'm not rostering Aaron Rodgers, then I'm looking at only Devonte Adams. I know. It's a little appealing here because a little bit surprisingly, Adams is actually higher in salary, and he's also coming in at slightly higher expected ownership at the captain position. So even though I like Adams as my favorite captain, I'm going to take the slight discount at salary and at expected ownership. And there's also just more ways for Aaron Rodgers to hit both floor and ceiling score. He's a quarterback. It is just a safer projection in general. As strong as I feel about Adams' projection tonight, we'll go with Aaron Rodgers as captain.
All right, then you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to go with, because I like you, Matt, I'm going to go with a guy who is someone you mentioned that might have 2 touchdowns. And we will get to some good players, of course, but if we're captaining Rodgers, I want at least 2 pass catchers from Green Bay. I'm going to go Robert Tonyan as the utility. And just quickly, because we had these super chats, I want to thank you guys. Awesemo says for Jordan with a Y. I told him I named my daughter Jordan with a Y, but like Jordyn to make it, feminine. And everyone thought it was the Y was instead of the J, and that I named her Jordan, which I mean, come on. Thanks, man. Bat Jones, thoughts on 4-string receivers? It's like farts in my pants. Nice. I guess that's our boy. And Peter Hanley, what receivers are even in play for these teams? You got to, Peter, I hope you're still on that heater. But go back. We hit on all of them on both teams. I just want to get through this, but I appreciate you, man. All right, I went Tonyan. Who you got?
All right, so we got Robert Tonyan in our lineup now. All right, let's take a look here. Ooh, I think I'm going to take a chance on this Detroit side of the ball, and it's not going to be the ones I want, TJ Hawkinson or DeAndre Swift. I'm going to save us a little bit of salary and say that this is the week where Amon-Ra St. Brown finally establishes himself as the slot receiver. They overemphasize defense on Hawkinson to prevent another big game like he had, and Amon-Ra St. Brown in our tournament lineup is our differentiator.
Damn. All right. Well, I'm going Devonte Adams, Matt. I'm not playing Rodgers without Devonte Adams here. I mean, if you want to go crazy and not do it, fine, but I'm doing it. Devonte Adams. So we got Rodgers, Tonyan, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devonte Adams, and Jordan's got our lineup builder pulled up, which just looks so sexy up there. All right, what do you got? 2 more. What's your last one? And then I'll close it out.
All right. Now, do we have enough to get to one of these stronger Lions plays? Do we have enough for Goff? If we have Goff, then it's really tough. So let's move down from there. Oof. All right, we'll take the salary savings from TJ Hawkinson down to DeAndre Swift. We talked about why we like Hawkinson's ceiling a little bit better, but I'll take DeAndre Swift.
All right. Well, I like it. I'm going A.J. Dillon here at $3,000.
And see, that's why he works really well this week.
Yeah.
For that reason.
Because you got Rodgers with 2 pass catchers, right? Really the 1 and 2 when you think about it in the red zone. And then A.J. Dillon, who could he get some goal line work? Yeah. Could he have a decent game? Absolutely. This is one of those backups where I actually have no issues playing him whatsoever. Rodgers, Tonyan, Brown, St. Brown, Adams, Swift, and Dillon. I dig that, Matt.
Yeah, it's definitely a ceiling lineup. Again, we're building for a tournament here. We're not trying to be too crazy, but I think we have a ton of touchdown upside here. And if that narrative of Amon-Ra St. Brown coming alive before Detroit comes through, then this lineup would be in the money for sure.
Yep. I mean, I think it's actually going to be a pretty popular lineup though in the Millie. So we'll see, but it still looks pretty good. All right. Final thoughts before we hand this one over to the Live Before Lock crew. Coming up right after us, it's Eric Lindquist, Matt Gajeski. Matt, final score prediction of this game. Let's hear it.
Okay. I'm going to go with Packers 31, Lions 20.
31-20. Oh, so you got Lions covering.
Covering
By the hook.
just barely. My gut says Packers win by more, but I'm going to go with what my number said.
All right. Lions cover by the hook. You heard it. 11.5 point spread. Give me Packers 34, Lions 14. That's what I think, man. But we'll see. Anyway, this has been a lot of fun. We got over 2,000 people watching. We did it. 500. We crushed 500 likes. Best viewers in the business. And hey, awesome. Matt, let's say thanks to our boy Jordan Klein. You can only see half of his head right now, but we love him.
Yeah, man. You're the best, Jordan. Appreciate you.
Stick around. Same stream right here. Eric, Matt, taking you all the way up to lock. We'll catch you back here for the next one. Peace.
I don't even know what you just said.
It's unbelievable to me.
What did you say?
This organization will not tolerate failure. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the NFL Live Before Lock show, where we build lineups that can actually fit underneath the salary cap. I'm Eric Lindquist, hanging out behind the virtual glass. Jordan Klein, of course. He's had 84 super chats for him today. He must feel loved. Are you feeling appropriately appreciated today, Jordan Klein? Oh, I got some thumbs up. That was nice. Anyway, we're ready to get to the analysis here. Of course, we're being sponsored by Prize Picks, but we got one guy that's going to lead us all to good. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I don't even care. I've got my boy Matt Gajewski here. I'm super excited for this garbage game. How about yourself?
Oh, dude, I'm up in Wisconsin. Can't call this a garbage game. Packers got to pick up a win.
Yeah, they do, but not with my 0-2 Vikings sitting there. I would love for them to join the cellar with us. I mean, what a division we've been given this season.
Oh, man, I think if you're a Packers fan or a Vikings fan, you're just hoping you limp into the playoffs based on the strength of the division at this point, right? Like,
yeah.
Do they have any hope to win the Super Bowl?
No.
I think you're right.
Zero. Like, I think neither one of these teams. Well, I don't want to get into crazy overreaction week one. Green Bay has Aaron Rodgers, and it's unfortunate, but I've seen this movie before where he just starts mowing down people, and that's just the way that it is. But as everybody's getting in here, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We're going to get to absolutely everything that has to do with this game. I mean, we got to talk Detroit, which is sad too, but we got to talk about this entire game as a whole. First of all, what are your impressions of this game? What are you expecting before we get to the plays?
I'm actually kind of excited for it. I think there might be a little more scoring than people anticipate just because the strength of the Green Bay defense, it doesn't appear to be there. They're a team that certainly has taken a step back. And I say that with a 1-game sample, but I think we can look at the player personnel they have, notice some deficiencies. Zadarius Smith is on injured reserve. He's not going to play here. They still haven't found a liable quarterback two outside of Jair Alexander. Like Kevin King is back. Eric Stokes maybe gets the start tonight. We'll see. He didn't really play as much as maybe a first-round rookie should have in week 1. So they're dealing with pass rush struggles, pass coverage issues. If Detroit can get any semblance of their offense moving, I like the over in the game.
Yeah, I think I do too. But also I wanted to let it be known that lineup did fit. I just put it in. If you look at the lineup that Laffy had submitted. So we have a bug that's going on with the lineup builder. Don't want to throw Jordan Klein under the bus because he is loved and appreciated. Obviously, 1 million super chats today. So once that gets fixed, we'll be able to have everything fully operational, but it should fit. It shouldn't be an issue if you plug that. Go ahead and we'll have 4,000 duplications, or I guess 1,600 duplications based on the chat here. But let's get to it. We've got quarterbacks right off the bat here. We've got Aaron Rodgers. He's pretty good at throwing footballs. We've got Jared Goff, not noticeably good at throwing footballs, but 57 pass attempts from anybody last game. They're going to probably be getting murdered and have to be in a come from behind situation, getting ready for dump offs, getting ready for all of these lovely low ADOT throws that he's going to have here. How are you kind of handling quarterbacks on this slate?
I think Rodgers is very clearly the play. If you're playing low risk contest, that is. So anything that is small field, anything that is cash build, Rodgers, even with the price difference, he's the clear play. Detroit with the 84 plays in their first game, highly, highly unsustainable. Depending on the year, this is going to be around 65 plays as the league average. When you're dealing with a team like Detroit, I think there's a reasonable expectation they fall below that just based on poor efficiency. So we should be expecting severe regression just in raw plays from Detroit. I would assume right away in this game, like that's just an absolutely unsustainable play rate.
I would agree with that. What, 92 you said?
I have 84. I'm not sure. This will vary depending on the source you look.
Okay. Yeah. So I that was kind of a weird thing that I saw earlier today. So I wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, just a total crazy, ridiculous amount of plays there, and prevent defense. The number one thing that can surely make a quarterback look more competent than what they are, for sure. Also good for fantasy outputs, but we talk quarterbacks. I don't think there's any real discussion there. You want to play quarterbacks on Showdown, regardless of the situation. And I'm going to have both in a bunch of lineups, but Aaron Rodgers, hard not to have the priority there. Let's start talking running backs, because I think that this is where a lot of my Showdown lineups, I'm hoping kind of come to fruition. I have a ton of Swift. I have a ton of Williams, but specifically Aaron Jones is kind of your anti-Aaron Rodgers, your anti-Devonte Adams stance here. God forbid, I don't want to talk running backs. Everybody's saying Sony Michel 54,000 times here. And I'm just very excited for Sony Michel chalk week if Darrell Henderson doesn't play, because I'm going to just get spammed over and over again. But what are you seeing from the running back position here? Because Aaron Jones is a guy I want to get to more of, but I just can't do it on this slate.
I think Aaron Jones is a fine play. He's coming in with slightly less ownership than Rodgers and Adams. So he's going to give you a slight break there. He's still pretty chalky overall. We're talking north of 50% ownership, north of 13% in the captain spot. And I think there's ways to build where you can get Rodgers, Adams, and Jones. And I'm actually okay with it because the Packers are just such heavy favorites in this game. Most of those are going to be like 5-1 onslaughts, and you're going to take on some value plays. But I love Aaron Jones. I think he's certainly viable in the captain. I think probably Devonte Adams and Rodgers are your preferred plays there in low risk contests, but Jones, he's right behind them.
We have a ton of super chats that just came in here. We have,
thank you, everybody.
See previous comment. I don't know what the previous comment was. Slick Messi. Oh, you gave a compelling argument for Sony Michel and how the coach went out and got him, etc. Who got the ball once for 2 yards. Not too bad, but please don't do that again. I'd prefer not to do that again because it definitely was hurtful. All right. We've got Sean Lewis. What's up, pimps? I'm a pimp. Oh, that's kind of cool. I'm probably the nerdiest pimp of all time here, but Battle of the NorCal QBs. Anyone else going Goffin tonight? Unfortunately, I'm going Goffin. You going Goffin too, my dude?
In tournaments, for sure.
Yeah.
Like just looking at our ownership projections, Goff is coming in at 38.7%. For a quarterback, that's ridiculous. That is so. I don't even know the last time I could remember a quarterback being this low owned on a showdown. It was definitely last year, but I can't remember one off the top of my head. You're actually getting a lot of leverage by playing Goff, and he's going to have the ball in his hands every single play, presumably playing from negative game script. He does have some upside, as we saw in week 1. So that's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. And I like him a lot based on where he's coming in.
And then we've got $2 in Canadian money, I believe. Is that what the CA on the front end means? Is that Canadian dollars? How do we use such things? But anyway, Charles, he said, hey guys, best captain for cash.
I actually think it varies depending on your platform. I like Devonte Adams on DraftKings because of the PPR bonuses. I like Rodgers on FanDuel. They're basically neck and neck in the pricing, and I think their projections are super close as well. So depending on your scoring platform, that's how I'm approaching it.
I'm right there with you. I mean, it should be straightforward. FanDuel, we know that quarterbacks are a little bit more highly valued. They just work out a little bit better, the half-point PPR for sure. But I do think that does make it a little bit intriguing on a site like Yahoo as well, where you're only having the half-point PPR. You can put them up in the top slot, like a guy like Devonte Adams, a little bit lower ownership. I'm not sure, though. It's pretty tough to make it up on the QBs in that spot. So I'm right there with you. I think Adams for sure on DK makes the most sense. All right, let's get ourselves back to it. So running backs, we'll kind of round out the position. We saw, 9 and 11 targets here total for Swift and Williams here in week 1. What are you seeing running back positioning, like kind of being, what's their expected production here? We don't expect that kind of target volume, do we?
I don't think you can. And it's solely based on the fact that they ran so many plays. Mm-hmm. They should just see natural regression based, like take the running back targets out of it. Like we know Jared Goff loves to throw to the running back position, but that's a little bit above average. But excluding that, just looking at raw play volume, like nobody should see that many targets for Detroit today. And then you look at the running back position, which he did have a clear preference for. That could flip at any point in time. So I'm not sure how sticky it is with the 1-game sample. Goff has targeted running backs in his career, a lot with Gurley, not so much in the recent years. So I don't know what to make of it. As far as playing them in DFS goes, I'm trying to get more Green Bay. So I'm looking at 4-2 builds, 5-1 builds. And if you're playing the studs on Green Bay, Rodgers, Jones, Adams, you have to make concessions to get them. One of those concessions for me are the Detroit running backs. They're just in a price range where they don't quite fit with those builds.
Okay. Well, perfect. We've got so
much
going on. What? No, that's where I'm at. I have so many things going on here in chat and in Slack, and we've just got a million questions. I mean, people want to know some answers to some ridiculous questions. I'm going to be throwing them your way because here we go to wide receivers in 2.4 seconds here. But first, Awesemo Plus tools. I got to throw this in because, I'm required by law. Awesemo Plus, $29.95 for the weekly pass here at the moment. Full access to everything that we offer behind the paywall. It's ridiculous. We have premium Slack channel, which is going berserk. Lineup builder, our projections, our player projections, and ownership projections, to be more specific, and so much more. And if you use promo code NFL Showdown LBL, good Lord, that's a lot to put together. All caps, one word, NFL Showdown LBL, all caps, 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. You can find the link to activate the coupon in the description of the video below. And of course, if you're only looking to play NFL DFS, sign up for $3.95. That's our lowest weekly package that we'll have available for it. Works are all the way up to the $29.95 there for the weekly pass. But stop guessing, start winning, and check out all of that good stuff today. Producer Jordan, thank you for throwing it up on the screen. All righty. Anything else to finish out running backs here? Because I guess A.J. Dillon, another guy that Lofty kind of signed off on the last show with, talked about how he liked him quite a bit. I'm finding it tougher for me to get to him on DraftKings. There's a lot of other cheaper wide receivers from, God forbid, Detroit that I'm going to be targeting in some of these bigger contests, some of these large field tournaments. What are you kind of seeing out of A.J. Dillon comparatively to these other backs?
I think he's a good play based on price. So he's just in a different price tier. If you're looking at the value plays at running back, he's the only one there. I think he's viable in builds with Aaron Jones because of the spread. This is a double-digit spread we're looking at. So it's viable to play them both. We already know that Aaron Jones is not going to handle a bell cow workload, basically no matter what. Didn't with Jamal Williams, hasn't to start the year. A.J. Dillon doesn't give you a huge receiving floor, which kind of worries me, but the touchdown equity is pretty high with the spread and the overall total in the game. So I'm fine with him there.
All right. Let's Let's move ourselves along. Anything else from running back?
I think we hit everybody. I mean, Kylan Hill played more in week 1 than he should have, but Green Bay got slaughtered, so I wouldn't look at him.
Yeah, it was basically a fourth quarter of a preseason game. That's kind of what we saw. It was pretty gross. So you're a Packer fan, right?
Kind of, not really.
What do you have a team?
When I was a kid, I cheered for the Bears. I lived in Wisconsin almost my whole life since I was born in Chicago, then moved up here. I don't really cheer for a team though.
Yeah, so that's so absurd. I mean, I'm a diehard. I will literally bleed purple. It's a weird thing to say out loud, but I mean, it's just what it is. You grow up and you're either a Packer fan or you're a Viking fan in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I chose purple, and that was a terrible decision, I gotta say.
I'm more of a fan of college football. Like Notre Dame's my team.
Okay. Well, so, I mean, you're the college football expert, which is great because we're going to the wide receiver position. Can I introduce you in some Quintez Cephas, some Amon-Ra, St. Brown in a brother revenge spot? Nobody's talked about that all day, but I got to say, that's going to be very intriguing to me. But let's start with, of course, Devonte Adams. He's the talking point of this entire slate. He's got to be your guy that you're playing in cash over on DK. I'm lighter in the captain position than what we currently have for him. If you take a look at some of our ownership there, 22.5%, he's coming in the pro spot there, or in the captain spot on DK. I think that makes sense, but I want to be a little bit below it. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm going to play him in cash in the captain spot on DK. In tournaments, it's the same approach you're taking. And you can't say enough good things about Devonte Adams, excluding their last game. He's going to push for the league lead in targets, presumably after what we saw last year. Really efficient play from him and Rodgers. You can't really see that many negatives. Plus, like Detroit just lost Jeff Okudah, their top defensive back. You can't even play the matchup game. Like Devonte Adams, I think you just play him.
I think you just play him too, but I'm going to be playing more of him in the flex. I think you got to put your money to work here. It's pretty hard to not go to the guy who has the largest red zone share out of anybody in the game, 18 touchdowns last season. That was last season. I expect better things for him going forward. No question about it. So I'm happy to get to him a bunch in the flex, but just for tournament's sake, a guy that I am going to be lower on in the captain spot. I have to ask, do you have lineups that do not have Devonte Adams on DraftKings?
No,
I do not either. And I think that that's an important thing to throw out there as well. I mean, we see guys like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, they push crazy amounts of ownership, especially in games where they're not playing each other. But we see them push like 90+% ownership. And I think Devonte Adams is definitely worthy of that. I was surprised to see only 50% for him in the flex and then 22.5% in the captain. That means 25% of lineups are not going to have Devonte Adams. And I feel like that's close to my rake for the evening, don't you?
I agree 100%. There's just certain situations where even if somebody is super owned, it still might not be efficient. And I do agree with you. That's probably one of those situations.
Okay. Well, glad that we're in agreement there because it tends to work pretty well when I'm in agreement with you on stuff. And also, thank God you're here to save me from myself. Sonny Michel. Okay.
What is this bit?
This bit is me. Week 1, I said that there's no way that Sean McVay wanted to come in and not utilize Sonny Michel in some capacity, that there had to be some kind of a package for him. And so he made like an intriguing dart. I only had like 24% of him in large field stuff. And apparently people acted like I said, play 100% of Sonny Michel.
Okay. I just wanted to understand the bit.
Yeah. And then, he ends up getting utilized in the fourth quarter after Darrell Henderson gets hurt. But what I expected was that he was probably going to get slowly adjusted to the offense. Sean McVay doesn't feel like he probably has the easiest playbook to figure out, probably holds guys to a little bit higher standard, trading for a dude coming and acquiring Sonny Michel. But anyway, yes, great call. Thank you so much, everybody. I love you all. Good.
I didn't mean to rehash it. My apologies.
It's okay. No, call me out. Hold me accountable. Like that's the thing. Hold me accountable, but you have to understand that I'm also losing more money than you probably are on making such a shitty dunce call. So thanks everybody for, just sticking the knife in a little bit further. Let's move ourselves along. 2 other wide receivers. Let's kind of move down the board here a little bit in salary. We've got Marquez Valdes-Scantling, kind of the next dude there. He had actually lower percentage of snaps than Alan Lazard did in the last game, but I still think that they're both viable. I don't really even know how to differentiate between the two of them. Do you?
It's razor thin between the two. Like the snap difference, negligible in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of a little more secure with Valdes-Scantling, I think, because of the role he plays. If you just look at like 40 times the skill sets of these receivers, Valdez-Scantling's the only one that's different. He ran a 4.37 40-yard dash coming out of USF. So he's a burner, the only one that has like legitimate take the top off the defense type speed. Adams doesn't have it. Lazard doesn't have it. Randall Cobb doesn't have it. Even Amari Rodgers, their third round rookie, none of them have it. So at least he's going to play a situational role. Whereas like Randall Cobb didn't play a ton in week one. If he sees an uptick in play volume, I think that would come at the expense of somebody like Lazard, where their skill set is a little more overlapping. But again, you're probably not going to get 100% of the snaps out of any of these ancillary Green Bay receivers. If I was prioritizing them, it would be a slight edge towards Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but you're really splitting hairs. And that's the spot where I'd like to just split ownership.
Alan Lazard went to Iowa State, therefore I will play more Alan Lazard. How about that?
He was good there too.
Yeah, he was awesome. Those were just like some of the most fun teams. Him and David Montgomery made my life there for a couple of years. Just have a program that's semi-competent. Still can't beat Iowa though, so that's an enjoyable experience for my life. It's not. Let's talk Detroit wide receivers, because I think this might be a make or break spot on this slate. Quintez Cephas, Tyrell Williams is out. Khalif Raymond is in there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, USC's finest. How are we feeling here about these wide receivers, other than just like, let's blindfold ourselves and throw darts?
It's really tough with like Khalif Raymond coming out with an injury. And so Khalif Raymond is like wearing some sort of thing on his leg in warmups. I don't really know what to make of that, if he's limited or not. And I don't think we're just going to get that information. But he operated as the wide receiver one, excluding Tyrell Williams last week. He played the most snaps. Again, the running backs got most of the production there, and TJ Hawkinson in week one. But Raymond, for the wide receivers, I expect to be the wide receiver one tentatively. Number two for me would be Amon-Ra St. Brown. And that comes down to snaps and routes as well, because we're dealing with such small sample sizes. So who's going to be on the field the most? Amon-Ra was on the field second most last week. He's going to play in the slot, hopefully getting some high percentage throws from Jared Goff, which is something I like. And then from there, I think you're just purely throwing darts. Like Trinity Benson and Quintez Cephas were part-time players in the offense. I know Quintez Cephas ended up with 7 targets in week one, but he only played on 35% of snaps. So this season seems like a very fluid situation to me, where I just want to throw darts at all of them and split ownership.
Yeah, and Trinity Benson came in regards to Tyrell Williams getting knocked out of the game. I'm not sure if that was just like a quick plug and play, and then the other guys are more utilized. I'm not really sure what to make of it, but Quintez Cephas was one of the guys that I thought I would have a little bit more interest in. It doesn't seem like he's coming in as many builds as what I was expecting, but he is under 10%. Is there any viability just because he's a little bit more expensive and trying to make him a thing as opposed to the others?
I think so. You can make a case for any of them. I'm going to be playing the ownership game heavily in tournaments with these guys. So just looking at who, like, for example, in our ownership projections, like Trinity Benson comes in a little higher than some of the other guys. And I think his role is probably the least secure out of any of them. So it's going to come down to just ownership to me, because it's such a fluid situation. But I do think you have to at least consider one of them in cash if you're not playing AJ Dillon. You need to make concessions somewhere if you're going to get Rodgers, Adams, and all of the studs from the Packers. I think Amon-Ra is a guy who's very much in play down there. He's sub 3K. There's Trinity Benson, kind of fits this mold. Again, I'm a little concerned with his snap share, and you mentioned why we might be additionally concerned with Tyrell Williams going out. So I don't know. Amon-Ra St. Brown is probably my preferred of the punts, but again, I want to split this in tournaments.
Yep, right there with you. We had a great question. Well, a couple of great questions here. Again, I'm just getting lit up here in the Slack, but that's what happens. You go into the premium Slack and you send a message. I'm probably going to read it on air. Don't make that you send me whatever. Actually, somebody's going to just troll me now, but whatever. Is a 5-1 Green Bay onslaught good for a DK GPP? I'm not using the Green Bay D either. Absolutely.
I think so too. I mean, I'm doing it in cash.
Yeah, I am too. Dillon and Jones in the same lineup for DK cash.
Say that again.
Dillon and Jones in the same lineup for DK cash.
Yeah, very viable because of the spread. And
Absolutely.
we know it's a timeshare anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have, see, there you go. I knew it was going to happen. So make sure you check out those single game showdown stuff that we have going. We've got all the projections available for free tonight for Monday Night Football. You're welcome. That was all my doing, of course. Anything else from the wide receiver position? I feel like we've hit on everything. I think it's just playing a lot of the ownership game. I'm right there with you. I guess the one guy we haven't talked about is Randall Cobb. What do you see his role being in this game? Because I'm not going to play a lot of him.
I don't want to play a lot of him either. He didn't have a role in week one, which is concerning because he's a guy they actually traded for. So how much does he actually have left in the tank? With that said, in tournaments, I think you should play at least some of him, because in the same vein, like, they traded for him. It's a 1 week sample size. They got absolutely slaughtered in the game. So did they just take Cobb off the field early because there was no chance of winning? I mean, their starters were gone in the third quarter. So like Amari Rodgers played like 25% of the snaps. Like Malik Taylor played like 25% of the snaps. So there is upside there. I'm with you though. I would rather get to your MVSs, your Lazards. Even we'll talk about tight ends in a second, but like Tunyon, somebody I would rather get to.
All right. We got a little bit of time here. Again, get those questions into premium Slack in a minute here. We're going to cover tight ends before we finish. But first, Prize Picks, sponsor here of Live Before Lock, our partner at Prize Picks. They're giving you daily prop-based games, and they want to help you with this deposit bonus we have going. Just promo code Awesemo. That's easy enough. Use promo code Awesemo. Get up to $100 first match deposit bonus. That's as good as it gets. You pick 2, 3, 4, or 5 players in all of these different sports. So NFL, obviously, MLB is going on. NBA will be coming up later. WNBA is in effect, and esports, which they have a ton of. I see a bunch of people on Twitter playing there in the esports streets. A really fun game type. You play them up together. You put all these props together from these different sports. So go download it on the App Store, Google Play, download it, and use that promo code Awesemo. I'm going to talk through a couple of my plays that I think are pretty interesting, and I just want to get your take on them, either based on your projections, based on Awesemo's projections. But first, Aaron Rodgers, over under 287.5 passing yards.
Dude, I thought you were going to go at me again with the rushing yards like you did last week.
I did.
I can't remember who the quarterback was, but
it was sick. So this is actually a great talking point. So I hit the first 4 legs of my Prize Picks prop because I put like $10 in and just was like, oh, I'm going to track it and see what happens. The only one I missed was 6.5 Derek Carr rushing yards. I took the over. He got 6.
Oh, no.
Pain and suffering. So, it was $10 donation to the gods, but it would have been like, what, $100 there? Would have been nice, but such is life. I just hammered the over on every rusher, and it was great.
To your point, though, I do like the over on your Rodgers prop. Again, okay. Detroit down their first quarter. This Green Bay team generally is fairly pass heavy. They got absolutely slaughtered in week 1. So I'm expecting a bounce back. I think that's a little low based on what we typically see from Rodgers.
All right. Another one for Prize Picks today. Jamal Williams, over under 19.5 receiving yards.
That's one I would lean towards the under on. And it comes down to just really small sample size. You got a ton of targets in week 1 based on raw play volume. I think Swift is the preferred pass catcher. Yes. So that still worries me.
So I was really high on Jamal Williams, but more so for Yahoo today because he's $16 as opposed to the $22 for Swift. And if you're going to play the 3 studs from Green Bay, you need to find some savings. So he kind of is the preferred guy that I'm going to the basement for. But that is not me advocating for Jamal Williams with this prop. I think it's a great under as well. I believe Awesemo had him at 17. And I just think that it's going to be a great spot for everybody over on Yahoo. There's a ton of overlay over there too. So check out that right now.
My goodness.
My Lord. We're going to have 6,000, 7,000 entries in overlay there. Check that out. But of course, this is Prize Picks show. We want to talk through Prize Picks. I love both of those props, the over on Aaron Rodgers, the under on Jamal Williams. If you want to throw Jared Goff, 249.5 passing yards in there, I don't really have a feel on that as well. I was kind of going to get your take on that because we had him slightly on the under as well. I just felt like shorting a lot of Detroit and being over on Green Bay felt like a logical situation.
That was my thoughts too. I just think there's a lot of overreaction with Detroit from that crazy game they were in week 1. And I won't say play volume again. I've said it enough, but that's the main reason.
All right. Well, check out Prize Picks. It's an absolute blast to play over there. So easy to play, such a great interface. And thank you so much to them for their sponsorship. It's a blast. I'm telling you, put $10, $20 over there, whatever you want to do, just to kind of like add to your portfolio, hedge against your DFS exposure. Just a blast to play over there. All right.
I mean, if you're doing DFS, like, these things anyway.
Right.
I didn't start playing Prize Picks till they started their promotion with us, but it is awesome if you're into fantasy and these player props.
And there's a lot of states where you're able to play Prize Picks where you're not able to bet props. And so what a great situation for me in California. I mean, I'm out here in California. It's going to get legalized one day. Today is not that day. So we got to kind of have our Prize Picks. We got to have some of these other sponsors that give us the opportunity to play props and take advantage of some of those lines. So I absolutely love it. All right, we got tight end. We're going to round this out, and then we've got a ton of questions to get to, and I'm going to rapid fire because, again, you're my favorite guy to work with flat out because you can rapid fire questions and I can just spit them as fast as possible. I think you're used to a Midwesterner who just talks way too fast, who's just, a little bit out of his mind.
Dude, I appreciate it. Kindest thing other than the Christian Bale comments that I've heard all day.
Yeah, Butthole Jenkins doesn't count. That's blasphemy. All right, TJ Hawkinson, starting with him, 9,600 over there on the old DK machine. I don't mind it in a PPR setting. We're going to see him get peppered with targets over and over again every single game. You might want to talk about the running backs having unsustainable catch volume there. I think TJ Hawkinson is going to be a thing this season. I have no problem getting to him on this slate. Probably my preferred play from Detroit. If you gave me one on the DK slate, how about yourself?
I love him in tournaments because I think you still want to play two really expensive Green Bay guys. But then if you're trying to just be a little bit contrarian, say you're in like a mid-size field, I think pivoting off one of them for an expensive Detroit option or a mid-price Detroit option, however you want to play this, is where you can get some leverage. And Hawkinson, like you mentioned, I'm fully expecting him to operate as their wide receiver one this year, just based on raw target volume.
Yeah, I am as well. I'm fixing something for me so I can get the Packers defense in. We're going to talk about that here in a second as well. Robert Tonyan, absolute touchdown hog coming off of last season. But there were only like one or two games where he really went completely nuts. Even in these games where he had touchdowns, it's like 4 for 22 and a touchdown, 2 for 18 and a touchdown, 3 for 18 and a touchdown. Those are literally his last 3. Is he going to get enough target volume just to be viable, even in a one-game setting, should he catch a touchdown?
I don't think in cash or low-risk contests. In tournaments, of course. The touchdown volume is awesome for Tonyan. And he's going to be, I don't think Rodgers is washed yet. That's a complete one-game sample. We've seen it at times in his career. So I'm still okay with playing him in tournaments for sure. I think he kind of gives you some leverage on some of the chalkier players as well. If you're just going like 5-1 sort of Green Bay onslaught stacks, I think he's going to be a little less owned in those builds too.
All right. Somebody just said, it was so loud in my house. I'm sorry. Did Eric Lindquist answer my question on the Green Bay onslaught? Yes, I did. You can absolutely do a 5-1. Let's throw in Mercedes Lewis. I just got a Mercedes Lewis question. Is he viable on this slate?
Probably not. He's mostly a blocker. Like, what would you put his over under targets at? I would put it at 0.5.
0.5. I would literally set it at 0.5. Targets, maybe I'd set it at 1 because I'm, kind of like that. It would be a fun, like you hedge out like at 1, 2, you would have to hit to win. But yeah, 0.5, I would still probably be taking the under.
But like you said, huge implied team total. We need to be considering every ancillary option if they're on the field. I would exclude Lewis out of my pool unless you're playing things like the Millie, the biggest of fields.
Are you seeing anything with this Khalif Raymond thing on his leg?
I was trying to find an actives and I just saw people talking about it. He's warming up fine. So, I mean, he's going to play.
Okay.
People are just like making a deal of he had a thigh injury late in the week. He's wearing like something on it.
It makes me want to jump my exposure to him here in the last second. Just the fact that he's going to be on the field and people don't like playing guys with a Q tag next to their name. It's just not a thing.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me. If he's active, I'm going to play him. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a doctor.
Yeah, why not? I don't understand. That's your job is to know everything.
Not a doctor.
Yeah, not a doctor. That's very good to know. So I won't go to you for surgery. Good to know. Anything else from the tight end position whatsoever?
I don't think you really want to play many of the backups for these teams. The snaps for Green Bay, I think, are just really wonky. Like Dominic Daphne is mainly a special teamer. He was basically in line with the snap share of all the other players that were just getting that fourth quarter for Green Bay. I think it's just a lot of noise and you play your guys.
All righty. Rounding it out, kicker and defense. Let's throw it all together, jam it all into one. What are you kind of seeing from them? Because, kickers are usually underrepresented. Alex was talking about this. We do a Thursday live stream where we're watching the first half of the game. It turned into us basically watching the entire game on Thursday. Thanks so much, Jordan Klein, for hanging around all day for that. Yeah, that's the look I was expecting. It was a blast, though. And Alex Baker, a lot of great nuggets from that. Steve Buzzard, you don't get access to these guys every single day to chat to them about game theory and everything else. But Alex says repeatedly, kickers are underrepresented on Showdown. I think that's a fact. It's very risky, but how do you feel about kickers in this spot?
I like them in low risk contests, especially when there's lower totals. This game doesn't fit that as much, but at the same time, we have Green Bay favored by so much. So when you're talking, I'm going to consider them value plays just for the sake of this conversation. when you're talking about kicker value plays versus other guys like AJ Dillon or maybe a backup tight end or something like that, I would rather play a kicker in cash in today's environment, today specifically being the Monday night game between Green Bay, Detroit, because every time they score, you're going to get a little piece of it. Whereas AJ Dillon needs to be that guy that like checks in either a garbage time touchdown or something like that. He's going to be a little more volatile because there's a lot of situations where he doesn't get in and he doesn't hit that ceiling score. Whereas you're going to have a little piece of every single score that Green Bay puts on the board with a guy like Mason Crosby. I'm not as interested in that with Detroit because I don't expect them to score as many points.
Right there with you. That makes sense logically. I think it also makes sense logically in terms of defense. Of course, if one of them gets a pick six, they automatically become viable, but I definitely want a little bit more of the Packers. That's already expressed in the ownership, but I'm under the field on both. How about yourself?
Can you repeat that?
So I'm under the field on the Packers. They're at 16.6% in the utility spot. I'm under the field on that. And I'm under the field on 8.6% Detroit Lions in large field stuff in my 140 lineups I have. How about you?
Same with me.
Okay, cool. That rounds out that conversation.
Thanks for filibustering while I pulled it up.
You're so very welcome. You know, this is teamwork. It makes the dream work. That's what somebody told me once upon a time. So we have rapid fire questions. I have a million of them lined up for you here. I've been sorting them as we've been talking because I think that this is going to be a really fun portion of the program. We've got 8 minutes. You ready to rock?
Let's ride.
All right. Tanyan, captain, question mark.
Large field only.
All right. Is running a 5-1 Lion stack burning money in a large entry DK GPP?
No.
I feel like we're on a quiz show where I'm just talking really fast and you just answer everything.
All right.
And we need to get like some kind of a beat going.
We need your take on that one too, though. 5-1 Lion stack. It's completely
I would play
off.
Aaron Jones in the captain. If I'm doing a 5-1 Lion stack, I would have Aaron Jones in the captain where he just eats up all of the Green Bay touches, ends up going nuts. And then you're just hoping for the exact same game script you had from Detroit last week, where, you know, it would have been Elijah Mitchell in the captain and 5 Detroit guys. That would be basically the game script you're building for it. Devonte Adams makes sense in a PPR. You can maybe make him the guy, but then I feel like you need Aaron Rodgers. So therefore I'd go Aaron Jones and then 5 Detroit guys if I were doing it.
I like that too. The only other way I could see it working is if you have the same Green Bay team you saw last week. Don't think that's likely.
So we have a question. Swift captain with 5 Packers behind it, kind of like James Robinson against Miami that happened last year. It is such an anomaly for something like that to happen. But again, that's what I'm explaining with Aaron Jones. So I guess I would have to like it with Swift too.
I don't like it as much because of the implied total. And you mentioned a really key point here. That worked with James Robinson one time off the top of my head. Maybe it's happened before. I can't recall, but that's the only time that stands out. And he was dominating backfield touches. Every snap, everything was going through him. Detroit doesn't play like that.
Is weather any concern for you for kickers?
No, unless it's like a hurricane.
Can we get some kind of like a low beat going on this, Jordan Klein, while we're talking? Just like a boom, like something. Can you find something for us to play while we're just rapid firing these? Because it would be fantastic. I'm just, a sucker for the theatrics. Thoughts on best option for captain on Detroit for a DK GPP? My favorite captain is Jared Goff.
Same.
Okay. Cool.
He's easy too, man. You get tons of leverage with him.
And he's a quarterback, and it's a quarterback where, Aaron Rodgers throws 3 touchdowns, Aaron Jones gets in for 1, and Jared Goff on the other side can still outperform him if he hits the 300 bonus. Like that could just work.
Yeah, and listen, I don't think Goff is good, but we're talking the strict leverage part. If you're playing cash, low risk, it's Adams, it's Rodgers.
All right, so we have these are more comments than anything else. We're going to go to the YouTube chat. I'm going to let that update here for 1 second. The Lions now going to steamroll. Love this music. Do we have music going right now? Oh, God, you are just honestly my favorite thing of all time. Sorry, Melanie, to my fiance over there. Stop giving away my lineups. Awesome. Cobb, single entry for a captain.
No,
that's from
Tyler, no.
Yeah, that's great making fun of him. Jones or Hawkinson, question mark.
Aaron Jones.
I'm going to guess Aaron Jones.
I'm better with first names in front of him. Otherwise, it's me guessing. But it's only a single game, so it doesn't matter as much.
All right. Somebody said, I think Detroit shocks the world tonight. I don't.
You should bet it then. Take your money line. You're going to be rich.
Yep. You're going to have a lot more money than us. Can I fade both QBs in a lineup?
Only stuff like the Millie. It's really, when you fade both QBs, you want like complete chaos, like low scoring game environments, defensive touchdowns, turnovers, stuff like that. Not recommended, but in large field tournaments, I'm okay with just about anything.
Single entry FanDuel, safe to play Rodgers and Goff.
Yeah, yes. Assuming your field size is not too big. And even then, I think I can train somewhere else.
Lazard or Crosby in cash, Matt?
Crosby, because you're getting a point every time Green Bay scores, at least.
First touchdown of the game.
Adams.
I love that. You're not going to make a lot of money on that, but love that call. That's the right one. Amari Rogers, question mark? I
don't think he has a role, but again, 1 game sample.
Trinity Benson, question mark?
He's my least favorite of Detroit based solely on snaps. And again, I think that's really fluid. So I don't feel really confident saying that.
Lazard will go off, question mark?
He very well could. Dude played 70% of the snaps. Probably could have been like 80% if they didn't get blown out. He definitely has a role, and we've seen it before. I think it's not the most likely, but it's there.
Yeah, in those first 3 quarters, actually had the majority share over Marquez Valdes-Scantling. That's just, I was kind of hoping Scantling was going to get more ownership and I could go to Lazard. Alas, they're basically identical. So there's that. Mason Crosby is an old grandpa. I agree.
I don't know how old he is.
Okay. Let's see. I don't know how old
Best
he is
of luck
either.
to his grandchildren.
Yeah, I was going to say that's enjoyable. Packers will spread the ball. I think that was kind of it. I think everybody just slowed down. Any other questions that we have? I'm playing a lineup with every Green Bay player at captain. That's not possible. That makes no sense to me.
St. Brown. You're talking about the defense, aren't you?
Oh, there we go. That makes way more sense with Green Bay player at captain. Yeah, no, that makes way more sense. You can roster 11 players at once. Congratulations on that. St. Brown, over or under 3.5 receptions?
Over.
Jordan Love allocation.
I never play this. I know there's a bit on Twitter about it. I never do it.
Yeah, there's a guy at another company. I think he's pretty famous for doing such things. Hawkinson and Swift without Goff, question mark.
Sure. You're playing probably for like Green Bay dismantles them and they do it with their studs. So you just need like cheap PPR volume from like a comeback.
AJ Dillon in the captain spot, question mark.
I think it's viable in big tournaments, but I'm not going to do it.
All right. Now we've got, I knew there was going to be a bot one time. I had to just, I knew something was going to happen at some point here. I would love to see Rodgers bench tonight. Oh my God. So would I. It'd be the greatest moment of my life against Detroit at 11.5 spread.
I don't want to see that. I have some very mean words said about Jordan Love after that draft. They will get dug up.
Okay. You had some mean words about him?
I was not happy with the Jordan Love pick. We'll leave it at
No
that.
kidding. It was atrocious.
Yeah, so I don't want those to resurface for my sanity.
It wasn't just atrocious because it was a quarterback. It was atrocious because you have Aaron Rodgers. And why wouldn't you just give him every opportunity to have anybody who is good?
I agree, man.
Okay, cool. Best Yahoo superstar. Again, producer Tyler, just coming in here with no questions at all other than just his own. That's
selfish. A good question because Yahoo's overlaying like crazy. I think it's Rodgers.
So go play there. No, it's more of just that he's self-serving as opposed to being helpful and helping others get their questions answered. He gets to jump up to the top of the pile because he has a blue wrench. Congratulations. I have Adams, Hawkinson, and Swift right now from Gillespie. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Agreed.
Cool. I don't trust this game at all. I trust that Green Bay is going to smash them, and I would bet the 11.5 if you're into such things, which I'm guessing most of you might be. In cash, would you play Goff or Aaron Jones? We've got 1 minute left.
Jones.
Okay, cool. We've got Rodgers and all of his drama. I agree. Yeah, that's a great question. I said that, producer Tyler. Whatever. You're not even on this show. Return of the Cobb tonight. I think not. All right. You got all your lineups in?
Mine are good.
36 seconds to go here, everybody. Probably going to be all done when it's all said and done here. That makes sense.
I love showdowns. There's no crazy inactives. It's only one game to manage. It's usually pretty easy to get lineups in.
Yeah, I'm actually just going to panic throw one more lineup in here on DK that leaves 5,000 on the table because I just think that's fun. That's the lineup right there. That's the one that's going to win them all for me. Matt Gajewski, another very successful showdown slate where we've been able to work together here. I've enjoyed our NFL stuff together. Hope you have too, but any final words for the people on the way out?
Thank you guys for always hanging out with us on a Monday night. I love these games. I love doing these shows, and I appreciate you all being here.
All right. And thank you so much to producer Jordan back there. Even though he can't get lineups to fit underneath the cap, he's the absolute best. Looking forward to everybody. MLB tomorrow is the main thing that's on the slate. Check out all of the goodies that we have here at Awesemo Plus. Make sure NFL Express Weekly Pass is $3.95. Check that out. Use promo code NFL Showdown live before lock for all the Awesemo tools there. You know the drill. He's Matt Gajewski. He's the man. I'm Eric Lindquist. I'm a simple man. We'll see you later.